FNAF, more like Five Nights at Freddy's is an indie horror video game series developed by Scott Cawthon. I couldn't think of an intro, sorry. We're doing a fandom reaction to FNAF today because people have asked for it, and I am nothing if not a slave to the whims of the people. You know, I'm a people's person. I am the common man. We're doing a fandom reaction to FNAF, okay? I need to explain what a fandom reaction is first, because apparently I haven't explained that well enough in most of my videos, I think, because people get very confused. All I'm doing here is I'm looking at places where fandom is and kind of just reacting to what the fandom for a specific thing is like. I'm not like joining it, I promise. I give a rating, but it's not that serious. Like, I just make a number up at the end. It's mostly for fun. You know, we're taking a world tour of fandoms, like a tasting board. Maybe eventually we'll draw some grand theory of fandom but first we have to look at all of them, every single one. I'm coming for you and your fandom. Probably not. There's like a bazillion million fandoms. We'll do what we can, you know, for fun. And today we're doing FNAF. I am not a FNAF fan. That is the whole point of these, to be clear. I haven't played a single FNAF game. I've watched like one person play Security Breach, and I think I've probably watched a couple people play the first one because people like to do that for fun. I do like indie horror games, but not FNAF. I think I was too old when FNAF started getting really popular, or just a nerd in a completely different way. But in any case, 2014 is when the first FNAF game came out. FNAF is an indie horror game series, and it started with a game in 2014 that was mostly just like, there's these animatronics and they like jump scare you, and you're working at like what is definitely not a Chuck E. Cheese, and you have to survive 5 nights. The titular 5 nights, and then you just try like not to die. You just stay in one room and they like pop up and the doors and stuff like that. It's pretty simple, but apparently there was hidden lore. And then the FNAF series, like later on, the lore ended up getting more important. I think partially because like FNAF got really popular, as far as I can tell from my research, mostly off of YouTube Let's Plays from like some of the really big YouTube Let's Players like Markiplier and them and stuff like that. And then, you know, Matt Pat got his grubby little paws on the series and he was like, holy cow, let's do lore theories. And then everyone got really into like the lore of FNAF. It's considered to have a cult following, is what I would say about the Five Nights at Freddy's series. Although, like, I feel like it's less of a cult following and more just like it was like really popular with certain demographic, like age demographic more than anything. And because it's so popular now, there's gonna be like a major movie in theaters. I watched the trailer for it. I reacted to the trailer for the movie, if you want to watch that, and it actually looks like a decent trailer. Spoiler for my other video, but the trailer looks decent. Okay, also one thing that I did find out in my research that I did not know before was I didn't realize that FNAF was like a spite game. It's so funny to me. Scott Cawthon created FNAF because he kept making these family-friendly games, and people were like, these are so creepy. Your games are creepy. Your models are creepy. The characters are creepy. I hate it. Why would you make this? And so he was like, you know what? Screw you. I'm gonna make an actually creepy game. I could make one that's even creepier. And then it became FNAF, and now he's like really, really rich. So I guess spite works sometimes, but that is all of the patience that I have for backstory. So we're going to get into actually looking at the fandom, and we're going to begin where we always begin, with not with Twitter, with X. Most people are talking about some drama that's happening with some guy named Phil. I don't care.
But other than that, what people are talking about is the new DLC that came out for FNAF Security Breach that everyone has been playing.
The other thing I looked through briefly is Tumblr. And Tumblr, I think, is relatively the same as any other fan platform for FNAF. There's a lot of fan art, there's like a lot of fan theories, there's a lot of fan writing. I do know that there was a period of time where Tumblr was a lot more full of FNAF X-Reader things because everyone was really into all of the things in Security Breach. Like, a bunch of the characters in Security Breach were kind of like, I don't know, mega hotties or something. Most insane way to describe them. But I do know that people were into the characters in Security Breach, as we'll see when we get to the AO3 section. From what I can tell, a really, really huge part of the FNAF fandom is the theorizing, which I think is really fun. You know, I like ARGs, I like games and shows and stuff with a bunch of hints and things. You know, I was a BBC Sherlock girly back in the day, but so I totally understand that whole lore aspect. One thing I'm not clear on is if the lore was in existence even like in the first game, because some things I read made it seem like it was, but I also kind of thought that like a lot of the lore didn't really happen until later. It's hard to figure that out just by looking at things, because I think everyone else already knows about that already, so no one is writing about it anymore. They're like, in FNAF 73, we found out that xylophone guy and phone guy had an illegal baby out of wedlock together, and then that baby time traveled back in time, and that baby became Freddy Fazbear's assistant, and that's why in FNAF 6 there was a secret Easter egg hidden in a back room, which is the back rooms
in FNAF, and that was by Freddy Fazbear's assistant, who is the legal grandchild of the President of the United States.
That's what FNAF lore sounds like to me. Other things about the fandom. I know that there is a huge, huge, huge culture of fan music and fan songs. That's pretty popular in several fandoms, but I would say that like it's not every fandom, right? But FNAF is a big one. It's kind of like My Little Pony, Doctor Who, Undertale, there's a couple other fandoms like that where like fan songs are a huge part of it. And I know that FNAF fan songs are a huge part of it because that was the first video I did in what I thought was gonna be a series, but took so much work that I don't know if it will be, where I tried to listen to like every fan song I could get my hands on for FNAF. So if you want to watch that video, I watched it with my younger sibling who actually does like FNAF, and it was so much work. But my plan now is to go to my favorite website on the internet, which is the Shipping Wiki, because it's, you know what that means? It's ship time! It's ship time! Okay, as far as I can tell based off of AO3, shipping is not actually that big of a thing. Right now, in 2023, shipping seems to be not that big of a thing in the FNAF fandom.
That does not mean that it never was. I just don't know about it because I'm looking at it in 2023 and not doing like major historical research.
I am not too surprised, I will say, because from what I know, a lot of the animatronics are, spoiler alert, possessed by dead children. So I would imagine that probably not a lot of people wanted to get into all that. However, I do recall people on TikTok, when Security Breach came out, being really, really hot for the alligator, and people being pretty split between whether they were into Glamrock Freddy or they wanted him to be their dad, which is why it was surprising to me when I opened AO3 and the top ships all had to do with Moon and Sun, who are like the two sides of the daycare attendant, I guess, in Security Breach. All of the top ships, like listen to the top ships on AO3, Moon/Sun/Reader, and then Sun/Reader, Moon/Reader, Moon and Sun, platonic, Sun and Reader, platonic, Glamrock Freddy and Gregory, platonic, Daycare Attendant, who I think is the same as Moon and Sun/Reader, Moon and Reader, platonic. It's just like the Moon, Sun, Daycare Attendant sweep. So I can't even tell which ships to look at on the shipping wiki because Moon and Sun isn't a ship on there because I think it's the same person. And while that does not usually stop fans, it's not entered on the shipping wiki. So I can't find it. Apparently everyone was really into this guy who looks sort of like, I mean, it just looks like a Tim Burton character, to be honest. But yeah, the point is that this shipping section here is kind of a bust, which I do prefer because I don't actually like talking about shipping that much, because then when I talk about shipping, it's just like, oh, there was a ship war here, and there was a ship war here, and there was a ship war here, and then people started sending each other death threats over who they thought should kiss in a friggin' fictional video game. Shout out to the Omori fandom. Although, I did look on the fan lore page, and apparently some of the first fan fictions on AO3 for FNAF all the way back in 2014 were like Chica/Bonnie. I don't think people knew at the time that there were children in the machines. So, you know, if those are children, which I don't know if they are, but if those are children, please forgive those like 10 people back in 2014. They did not know what they did. We take a brief moment's respite from our investigation to bring you a short cameo. The thing about FNAF is it is so popular that you can find FNAFatics, as I've been calling them, of course, anywhere. Maybe even in your own house. So, random stranger who just broke into my house, I have a question for you. If you were to describe the FNAF fandom in 3 words, what 3 words would you use to describe it? The people must know.
Neurodivergent minors.
That's 2. Also, minor is not an adjective, but
Minor can be an adjective.
I don't think so. A minor, like it's not like
Anyways, I don't have any other words to describe the FNAF fandom.
The neurodivergent minors.
Neurodivergent for the most part, and MatPat.
You're not even a minor.
No, I'm not in the FNAF fandom.
Okay, thank you so much. Foxy's a boy? I assumed with a name like Foxy. Well, with that brief interlude over, it's time to get into a segment that I like to call This Is Not a Drama Show. It's where we talk about drama. Obviously, given that Five Nights at Freddy's has been like a big community with like so many people in it for 9-ish years, 8 or 9 years, okay? There has been so much controversy and so much drama. It's like hard to even choose which ones to talk about based on what I've found on Twitter. There has been interpersonal drama, the likes of which I can't even fully fathom in my little brain. But there's a couple things that I think are worth actually talking about. Well, okay, there's like one thing. Well, the elephant in the room, Scott Cawthon. Scott Cawthon, creator of FNAF, right? He retired, I think, basically retired in 2021 because it turned out that people found out that he donated like a hell of a lot of money to Republican politicians, and it turns out my guy is a Christian, relatively conservative Republican, and a lot of like gay people, like FNAF, so they were kind of like weirded out by that because most, if not all, Republicans are like uber homophobic, and especially now uber transphobic too. He wrote this giant statement, right, about all the different people he had given money to in the past. He was like, I've given money to Republicans and I've given money to Democrats. I mean, this guy, like, to clarify my position on this whole thing, this guy is politically and morally and ethically my exact opposite in any way. So clearly, I'm not gonna give you a sympathetic retelling of this controversy here. He is a Trump supporter and I'm the opposite of that. But so basically this guy, people felt like, oh, we can't spend money on these games and support him, and it was a huge thing because he's giving money to Republican organizations. I don't know exactly how the monetary situation works anymore. I don't know who owns FNAF. I don't know how much money he makes when people buy new games. It's like the Harry Potter of indie horror games. I don't think that's a good comparison. It's kind of interesting to me that I hadn't heard about that before. I think I knew that people didn't like him for some reason, but people online don't like people for such wide variety of reasons that alone really doesn't say much to me of like, oh, people online are mad at him. People online are mad at you for being a human being online. They're online and they're like, how dare you be online? And it's like, what were you doing at the Devil's Sacrament? There are enough FNAF fandom dramas that I have found multiple icebergs. And so I'm sure that there are very long videos explaining these FNAF drama icebergs that I don't care about, but you might. So I would encourage you to go watch one of those. So on that note, I think I've said everything I want to say about FNAF, which is a fandom made up, per my younger sibling, of neurodivergent minors. I have no clue what the average age range is. I suspect it tends to be younger than me, but I might be wrong. The thing I like least about FNAF, which is not really the fault of the fandom, although it is a little bit of the fault of the fandom being so big and so popular. The thing I like least about FNAF is that it spawned a legion of copycat games, but are just like random mascot horror that all looks like crap and it's not fun. It's all the same type of game and everything seems to just be a bad ripoff of FNAF. I don't think it's interesting. I think it's uber overdone at this point, but I've never been a mascot horror person in the first place. Like, not to toot my own horn or anything, but Chuck E. Cheese never scared me that much. I was kind of cool kid, you know, I wasn't really scared by Chuck E. Cheese. I think I went there, I think I might have only gone there one time in my entire life. See, that's the thing I like least about FNAF. The thing I like most about FNAF, I think whenever fan content is really popular, it can lead to like more drama and controversy and stuff like that, but I just love anything that inspires people to create. So the fact that fan games, fan videos, fan songs, fan art and stuff like that are all so popular is really cool to me every single time that I see it, especially like a diversity of fan content. Any fandom where the majority of fan content is not just one type of thing, like just fan art or just writing or whatever, although those things are cool too. I like it when people in a variety of creative mediums get inspired to create because of some media. I think that's awesome, and I think the fact that there is support for those people within the FNAF community is a really, really cool thing. But also 8 years of controversy, 8 years of drama, and it was created by a guy who sucks. So 5 out of 10. By the way, if you're watching this, I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel and maybe give it a like. And check out some of my other videos. You might like them. They're not all just specific fandoms, although a lot of them are. Let me know if you want me to do a video about a different fandom. That would be awesome. Thank you. Bye!